The morning bell rang at Westlake High School, and Mei Lee took a deep breath before stepping through the front doors. Another day of trying to be invisible. She pulled her hoodie lower over her face and hunched her shoulders forward, making herself as small as possible. The crowded hallway buzzed with morning chatter. Mei kept her eyes on the scuffed floor tiles, counting steps to her locker. 19, 20, 21. She reached her locker without incident and quickly spun the combination. Well, look who decided to show up today. Mei's fingers froze on the dial. She recognized Tanya's voice immediately, the head of the group that had made her life miserable since freshman year. "What's wrong, mouse girl? Cat got your tongue." Tanya laughed, her friends joining in as they surrounded Mei. Someone knocked her backpack, spilling books across the floor. Mei bent down silently to gather her things while the girls snapped photos. She knew what would happen next. The pictures would end up online with cruel captions that would collect dozens of likes and comments. "Pathetic," Tanya whispered before walking away, purposely stepping on Mei's math homework. At the other side of town, Mei's identical twin sister Lily was having a completely different morning at Sinclair Academy. While they shared the same face, same dark eyes, and same straight black hair, everything else about them was different. Where Mei faded into backgrounds, Lily commanded attention. Where Mei whispered, Lily's laugh filled rooms. Where Mei hid, Lily shined. Their parents had sent Lily to Sinclair after she won a prestigious scholarship. They thought separating the twins would help each girl develop her own identity. Instead, their paths had grown further apart. Lily thriving in the challenging environment while Mei became the perfect target for bullies. After school, Mei walked home alone, taking the long route to avoid running into Tanya's group. When she finally reached their small apartment, she found Lily already home, dancing around the kitchen while making a snack. "Hey, Mouse, how was your day?" Lily called out cheerfully, using the childhood nickname that, from her, had always felt like love. Mei didn't answer. She dropped her backpack on the kitchen chair and pulled out her phone, handing it to her sister without a word. Lily's smile vanished as she scrolled through the latest posts. Pictures of Mei picking up her books. Captions calling her floor scrubber and doormat. Dozens of laughing emojis in the comments. "This has to stop," Lily said, her voice dangerously quiet. "Why don't you tell someone?" "Tell who?" "The teachers don't care. Mom and Dad would just tell me to toughen up." Mei slumped into a chair, tears threatening to fall. "I just want to get through high school without anyone noticing me." "But they are noticing you," Lily pointed out. "In the worst way possible." Their small dinner that night was silent. Their parents worked late shifts, leaving the twins to fend for themselves most evenings. Halfway through the meal, Mei's phone buzzed with another notification. She looked at it and immediately pushed her plate away, appetite gone. Lily grabbed the phone. A new post showed Mei walking home, photographed from behind, with comments suggesting she followed the train tracks out of town. Lily's face hardened. The protective spark in her eyes was something Mei had seen before, usually right before her sister did something either brave or incredibly foolish. "I have an idea," Lily said, leaning forward with sudden intensity. "Let me go to your school tomorrow." "What?" "We switch places, just for a day. I'll be you, you'll be me. They won't know the difference." "That's crazy," Mei whispered, but for the first time all day, she felt something other than dread. A tiny flutter of hope mixed with fear. "We'd get caught." "No, we wouldn't," Lily insisted. "We're identical. I can be quiet like you. You can try to be loud like me." Mei started to shake her head, but stopped. A strange feeling grew inside her chest. Curiosity, possibility, maybe even excitement. What would happen if, just once, someone stood up to Tanya? What would it feel like to walk through different halls, where nobody knew her as the girl who always ran away? "Just one day?" Mei asked. Lily grinned, the same mischievous smile she'd had since they were little. "One day to start with. That's all it takes to change everything." Sunlight crept through the blinds as Mei's alarm buzzed at 6 a.m. She reached to turn it off, but Lily was already up, rummaging through Mei's closet. "Too boring, too baggy. Do you own anything that doesn't look like you're trying to disappear?" Lily tossed clothes onto the bed where Mei still lay, watching her sister with growing anxiety. "That's the point," Mei said, picking up her favorite gray hoodie. I want to disappear. Lily sighed and grabbed the hoodie. Okay, this is what you'd wear, so this is what I'll wear. She pulled it over her head and looked in the mirror. Now show me how you walk. For the next hour, the twins practiced being each other. May demonstrated her hunched posture and quiet voice. Lily showed Mai how to stand tall, make eye contact, and speak with confidence. You have to smile more. Lily instructed, watching Mai practice in front of the mirror. Not a fake smile. Think of something that makes you happy. Nothing at school makes me happy, May muttered. Then pretend. My friends expect me to be cheerful. If you act like you, they'll know something's wrong. They swapped phones, ID cards, and backpacks. May's stomach nodded as she put on Lily's crisp Sinclair uniform, a navy blazer with the school crest, pleated skirt, and polished shoes that pinched her toes. My schedule's on my phone, Lily said, pointing to the class list. I sit next to Zoe in most classes. She has pink hair. You can't miss her. Just follow her lead. What if someone asks me something I don't know the answer to? Say you're not feeling well. That'll explain why you're quiet. Lily adjusted the hoodie, making sure it covered enough of her face. What about your classes? May handed her sister a wrinkled schedule. I have a math test today in Mr. Wu's class. A test. Lily's confidence faltered. I'm terrible at math. I know. For the first time that morning, May smiled. Maybe don't raise your hand to answer questions. Their parents had already left for their early shifts at the hospital, leaving a note to remind the girls about leftovers in the fridge. They wouldn't be home until late, perfect for the twins' plan. Outside, they hesitated at the sidewalk where they would usually part ways. Remember, keep your head down, don't make eye contact, and if Tanya says something mean, just take it, May instructed, feeling strange to be telling someone to act weak. And you, Lily said, gripping May's shoulders, remember that you belong at Sinclair just as much as anyone else. Walk like you own the place. They hugged quickly, both trembling slightly with nerves. May watched her sister shuffle away in her oversized hoodie, shoulders hunched perfectly, before heading toward the bus stop for Sinclair Academy. She missed Lily's usual ride, a senior boy named Han who drove several Sinclair students to school, but the bus would have to do. On the bus, May pulled out Lily's phone and studied her social media. Dozens of friends, hundreds of comments, thousands of followers. Pictures of Lily at parties, at sports events, surrounded by people who admired her. It was like looking at photos of a stranger who happened to have her face. Across town, Lily arrived at Westlake High, heart pounding with a strange mix of anger and excitement. She kept her head down just as Mai had instructed, counting tiles. 19, 20, 21. Maid's locker. She fumbled with the combination, intentionally dropping a book to seem clumsy. A tall boy with kind eyes stopped to help. You okay, May? He asked, handing her the fallen textbook. Lily nodded silently, taking the book and clutching it to her chest. This wasn't in May's briefing, someone being nice to her sister. She'd have to ask about him later. At Sinclair, Mai stepped off the bus feeling like an imposter in fancy clothes. The school looked more like a small college than a high school, with its brick buildings and manicured lawns. Students around her chatted confidently, carrying expensive backpacks and coffee cups from places Mai had never been. Lily. A girl with bright pink hair bounded up to her. Where's your car? And since when do you take the bus? May swallowed hard. This must be Zoe. Car trouble, she managed, trying to sound casual. Han couldn't give me a ride today. Well, you missed it. Ms. Chen posted the chemistry scores, and guess who got the highest grade? Zoe linked arms with May, pulling her toward the main building. You did, obviously. I swear you could sleep through that class and still ace it. May felt a flush of pride for her sister, even as panic rose in her chest. Chemistry? Mai struggled with basic science. How was she supposed to fake being brilliant? Back at Westlake, Lily had just reached May's first class when she spotted Tanya and her friends blocking the doorway. This was it, the moment she'd been waiting for. Well, if it isn't Mouse Girl, Tanya said, loud enough for nearby students to hear. Did you enjoy being our social media star yesterday? Lily kept her head down, just as May would, but her mind raced with possibilities. This was day 1. Observation day. Learn the enemy's patterns before making a move. Nothing to say. Tanya stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Maybe we need some new content today. Lily felt her fingers curling into fists inside the hoodie pocket. Not yet, she told herself. Not yet. But soon, very soon, Tanya would learn that she'd been poking the wrong twin. Lily slid into May's assigned seat in Mr. Wu's math class, keeping her head down just as her sister would. The test papers were being passed back, and Lily felt a twinge of guilt about potentially ruining May's grade. Math had always been Lily's worst subject, while May could solve equations in her sleep. You have 45 minutes, Mr. Wu announced. Begin now. Lily stared at the first problem. Calculus. Her mind went blank. She'd barely passed pre-calculus at Sinclair, and that was with a tutor. She glanced around, watching other students scribbling away confidently. Then she noticed the boy next to her. The same kind-eyed boy who'd helped with her books earlier. He was working through problems methodically, his paper angled slightly toward her. Was he deliberately making it easy for her to see his answers? Lily couldn't tell, but she wasn't about to waste the opportunity. She started copying, changing a few numbers here and there to avoid being obvious. During lunch, Lily sat alone at May's usual table in the far corner of the cafeteria. She watched Tanya and her friends at their center table, laughing loudly and taking selfies. Occasionally, they'd look over at her and whisper. Lily pretended not to notice, but she was taking mental notes of everything, who sat where, who seemed to be in charge besides Tanya, which teachers walked by without noticing the bullying. Mind if I sit? It was the boy from math class again. Without waiting for an answer, he sat across from her with his lunch tray. Thanks for the help on the test, Lily whispered, figuring honesty was the best approach. He looked surprised. You're welcome, but you've never thanked me before. Lily's curiosity piqued. You've helped me cheat before. Not cheat, he said quickly, looking around. I just, make it easier to see my answers sometimes. After what happened last year, it seemed like the least I could do. What happened last year? Lily made a mental note to ask May later. I'm Meade, she said, realizing she didn't know his name. I know, he replied, looking confused. We've had classes together since 6th grade, May. I'm David. Across town at Sinclair Academy, May was navigating a completely different set of challenges. By lunchtime, she'd managed to avoid answering any direct questions in class by pretending to have a sore throat. Zoe had been suspiciously helpful, even answering for her when teachers called on Lily. You're being weird today, Zoe commented as they sat at a table filled with the popular crowd, a place Mai would never have dreamed of sitting at Westlake. Did something happen with Han? No, just not feeling great, May replied softly, still amazed that these people accepted her without question. Well, feeling sick or not, you need to deal with Vicky. Zoe nodded toward a tall girl across the cafeteria who was staring at them. She's still spreading that rumor about you cheating on the chemistry test. May froze. What should I do? Zoe laughed. What you always do. Put her in her place before she gets too confident. May had no idea what putting someone in their place looked like for Lily. Was her sister mean? Did she bully others the way Tanya bullied May? The thought made her stomach turn. I think I'll ignore her today, May said. Zoe raised an eyebrow. That's a first. Back at Westlake, last period was about to begin when Lily felt someone shove her heart from behind. She stumbled forward, nearly falling, but caught herself against a wall. Turning, she saw Tanya's smirking face. Oops, didn't see you there, mouse girl. Several students stood watching, some looking uncomfortable, others laughing. Lily noticed David a few feet away, his expression troubled but frozen in place. This was the moment. She could continue playing May and take the abuse, or she could fight back. But fighting back on day one wasn't the plan. The plan was to observe, learn, and then strike strategically. So instead, Lily did something unexpected. She straightened up, looked Tanya directly in the eyes, something Mai would never do, and smiled. Not angrily, not challengingly, but with genuine amusement, as if Tanya had told a joke only Lily understood. The smile threw Tanya off balance. What are you smiling at, freak? Lily shrugged, still smiling, and walked away. She could feel Tanya's confusion radiating behind her. It wasn't the reaction Tanya was used to getting, and it left her without a script to follow. In chemistry class, the final period of the day, Lily sat at May's assigned lab table with David as her partner. The teacher announced they would be conducting an experiment involving chemical reactions. "You're acting different today," David whispered as they set up their equipment. "Good different or bad different?" Lily asked. "Just different. You smiled at Tanya earlier." "I've never seen you do that before. Maybe I'm tired of being afraid." David looked at her with something like hope in his eyes. "Really?" Before Lily could answer, their beaker suddenly bubbled over, sending blue foam spreading across the table. Students around them laughed as the teacher rushed over. "Ms. Lai, Mr. Park, what happened?" Lily had no idea. Chemistry was actually her best subject at Sinclair, and she knew she'd followed the instructions correctly. Then she noticed Tanya at the next table, quickly hiding something in her pocket. "I think someone added something to our experiment," Lily said, loud enough for nearby students to hear. The teacher frowned. "That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof?" Lily locked eyes with Tanya, who smirked confidently, knowing no one would ever believe Mouse Girl over her. "Not yet," Lily replied, "but I will." After school, the twins met at the public library halfway between their schools, in a quiet corner where no one would recognize them. "How was it?" Mai asked anxiously. "Did Tanya bother you?" "Nothing I couldn't handle," Lily said, pulling out Mai's math test with a grimace. "But you might want to explain this C to Mom and Dad." Mai groaned. "What about Sinclair? Did anyone suspect anything?" "Zode thinks you're sick, and some girl named Vicky is spreading rumors about you cheating." Mai bit her lip. "What else?" "Who's David Park?" Mai's eyes widened. "He talked to you?" "He sat with me at lunch, helped me on the math test, said something about after what happened last year." "What happened last year, Mai?" For the first time since their switch began, Mai looked truly uncomfortable. "Nothing. He's just someone in my classes." Lily knew her twin was hiding something, but she let it go for now. "So, what's the plan for tomorrow? Same thing, or do we switch back?" Mai hesitated, then a small, determined smile spread across her face. "One more day. I want to see what else I can learn about your life, and maybe what? Maybe see what it feels like to stand up for myself, even if I'm pretending to be you when I do it." Day 2 of the twins' switch began with more confidence than the first. Lily had a plan for Westlake, and Mai was determined to discover more about her sister's life at Sinclair. The morning bell had barely finished ringing when Lily spotted Tanya waiting by Mai's locker. Instead of approaching directly, Lily lingered near the drinking fountain watching. Tanya was talking to a girl with glasses who looked uncomfortable. The girl kept shaking her head, but Tanya's insistent whispers continued. "That's Jen." David's voice came from behind her. "Tanya's making her write a history paper for her." Lily turned to face him. "Does she do that a lot? Force people to do her work?" David leaned against the wall. "How do you think she maintains her B average? She hasn't written her own paper since 7th grade. This information was valuable. Lily filed it away, then walked toward her locker with new purpose. As she approached, Tanya's attention shifted from Jen to her. "Well, if it isn't." "Morning, Tanya." Lily cut her off, voice pleasant but firm, not quite Mai's usual mouse-like whisper. She spun the locker combination confidently while Tanya blinked in surprise. "You're acting weird. Why? Did you finally get medicated or something?" Tanya sneered, recovering quickly. Lily simply shrugged, opened the locker, and grabbed what she needed. Then she turned to Jen, whose eyes were fixed on the floor. "Hey Jen, can I borrow your notes from yesterday's history class? I missed something important." Jen looked up, startled at being addressed directly by someone she probably considered even lower on the social ladder than herself. Sure," she stammered, digging in her backpack while Tanya glared. "Thanks," Lily said, taking the notebook. "I'll give it back at lunch." Then she walked away, feeling Tanya's confused stare on her back. By second period, whispers were following Lily through the hallways. Mai Lai speaking up? Mai Lai looking people in the eye? Something strange was happening, and the normally predictable social waters of Westlake High were rippling with change. In English class, the teacher assigned group work. Normally, no one would choose me for their group, but today Lily took control, joining a table with two quiet boys who usually work together. Mind if I join you? She asked, not waiting for an answer before sitting down. Sure, one of them said, looking around as if expecting a prank. Great. I'm good at analysis, so I can take that part if you want, Lily offered, opening her book to the assigned story. Across town, May was facing her own challenges at Sinclair. The morning had started with a text from Han asking why Lily was avoiding him. May had no idea how to respond. Lily hadn't mentioned any relationship issues with this boy. Another message popped up before she could decide. We need to talk. Meet at the usual spot before first period. May had no idea where the usual spot was. She texted back, not feeling well today. Can we talk later? His response was immediate. This isn't like you, Lily. What's going on? Ignoring the text, May entered the school building, searching for Zoe's pink hair in the crowd. She spotted her by the stairs, talking with a group of girls who all turned to stare as May approached. There she is, one of them said, loud enough for May to hear. Think she'll pretend to be sick again today? Zoe rolled her eyes. Lay off, Vicky. Not everyone can afford to buy their grades like you do. So this was Vicky, the girl who had been spreading rumors about Lily cheating. May felt her stomach tighten as she joined the group. How's the throat today, Lily? Vicky asked with fake concern. Still too sore to answer questions in class? May remembered Lily's advice. Walk like you own the place. She straightened her shoulders and looked directly at Vicky. My throat's fine, she said with more confidence than she felt. How's your chemistry grade? Still failing. The other girl's eyes widened, and Zoe let out a surprised laugh. Vicky's face flushed red. At least I don't cheat on tests, she hissed. Prove it, May replied simply. Vicky clearly hadn't expected this response. She opened her mouth, closed it, then turned away with a frustrated sound. The other girls looked at Lily with newfound respect. What got into you? Zoe asked as they walked to class. Yesterday you wouldn't even look at her, and today you're throwing down challenges. May smiled. Maybe I'm tired of pointless drama. At lunchtime, Lily sat at May's usual corner table, but she wasn't alone. David joined her, and to her surprise, so did Jen and the two boys from English class. Their quiet conversation gradually grew more animated as Lily asked questions about their interests and shared funny stories that carefully avoided details that would reveal she wasn't really May. From across the cafeteria, Tanya watched with narrowed eyes. Her usual target was suddenly surrounded by people, laughing and talking as if she belonged there. This wasn't how things were supposed to work. At Sinclair, May had managed to avoid Han all morning, but he cornered her in the hallway before lunch. Why are you avoiding me? He demanded. Is this about what happened at the party? May had no idea what party he meant. I just need some space, she said, figuring that was a safe response. Space? Han looked hurt. After everything I did for you, getting you into that party with the college guys, covering for you with your parents? I thought we had something special, Lily. College guys, covering for her with their parents? What exactly was Lily involved in? May felt a chill run down her spine. I need to think about things, she said, trying to sound firm. Is this about Vicky's rumor? Because I already told everyone I helped you study for that test. No one believes you cheated. So Han had defended Lily against the cheating accusations. That was something at least. Thanks for that, May said sincerely. But I still need time. Han's expression softened. Fine. Take your time. But we need to talk before the weekend. There's another party, and everyone's expecting us to be there. After school, the twins met at their usual library spot, both bursting with news. People sat with me at lunch today, Lily said excitedly. Real people having real conversations, not just about homework or to ask for favors. They actually seemed interested in what I had to say. That's great, May said, but her expression was troubled. What's wrong? Did something happen at Sinclair? May twirled a pen between her fingers nervously. Who's Han, and what's he covering for you with our parents? Lily's smile faded. He's just a friend. Really? Because he seems to think you're more than friends. He mentioned parties with college guys. It's not a big deal, Lily said, suddenly defensive. Han knows some university students. Sometimes we hang out. It's fun. Does Mom know? Or Dad? Of course not. They'd freak out. but it's totally safe. Han looks out for me. May wasn't convinced, but she changed the subject. I stood up to that Vicky girl today. It felt good. Scary, but good. Lily's face brightened again. See, that's what I've been telling you. Standing up for yourself feels amazing. Speaking of standing up for yourself, May said, David seems really nice. Why haven't you ever mentioned him? Lily raised an eyebrow. You mean why haven't you ever mentioned him? He's your classmate. You know what I mean. He obviously cares about you. About you, Lily corrected, and I don't know. Maybe you should ask yourself why you've never mentioned him to me. The twins stared at each other, both realizing how little they'd shared about their separate lives until now. One more day? Lily asked finally. May hesitated, then nodded. One more day. But then we need to talk, really talk, about everything. Day 3 of the twins' switch started with a problem. May woke up with a text from their mom. Parent-teacher meetings today at both schools. Dad's going to Westlake, I'm going to Sinclair. Coming home early to take you both out to dinner after. We're in trouble, May showed the message to Lily over breakfast. Their parents had already left for early hospital shifts, leaving the twins to panic alone. Maybe we should switch back right now, May suggested, pushing her cereal around nervously. Lily shook her head. We can't. I'm finally making progress at Westlake. Today's when everything comes together. What do you mean? I found something yesterday. Tanya keeps a spare phone in her locker where she stores all the bullying pictures and messages. If I can get it, we'll have proof to show the principal. Mee's eyes widened. How do you know about the phone? Jen told me. Apparently, Tanya made her hide it once when a teacher got suspicious. Lily's expression hardened. I'm going to get it today. That's stealing. It's evidence, Lily corrected. And it's our only chance to stop her for good. May chewed her lip, torn between worry and hope. What about the parent-teacher meetings? They're after school. We'll meet at the library like usual and switch back before dinner. Mom and Dad will never know. May wasn't convinced, but she nodded. Be careful today. If Tanya catches you going through her locker. She won't, Lily promised, gathering her things. What about you? Can you handle another day at Sinclair? I think so. As long as Han doesn't push too hard about that party. The twins parted with a quick hug, each heading to their borrowed life for one final day. At Westlake, Lily arrived early with a plan. She knew from Jen that Tanya always had morning track practice, leaving her locker unattended for 30 minutes. The hallways were nearly empty as Lily approached, heart pounding. She tried the locker handle first, locked of course. Next, she pulled out a small slip of paper where she'd written the combination, carefully observed over Jen's shoulder yesterday. What are you doing? Lily jumped, nearly dropping the paper. David stood behind her, eyes wide with surprise. David, you scared me. She scrambled for an explanation. I lost something yesterday. I think Tanya took it. So you're breaking into her locker? His voice was a mix of shock and was that admiration. Not breaking. Just looking. Lily held up the combination. Want to help? To her surprise, David nodded. I'll keep watch. Be quick. With trembling fingers, Lily spun the lock, praying the combination was correct. The locker popped open on her first try. Success. Inside was a chaotic mess of books, gym clothes, and makeup. Lily searched frantically, aware of every passing second. Finally, she found it, a small black phone hidden inside a makeup bag. Just as her fingers closed around it, David hissed, "Someone's coming." Lily shoved the phone in her pocket and slammed the locker shut, spinning the dial to reset it. She and David hurried away, turning the corner just as a group of track team members entered the hallway. "Did you get what you needed?" David asked once they were safely in the library. Lily nodded, heart still racing. "I think so. Thanks for helping." "What's on the phone?" "Hopefully, evidence of all the bullying Tanya's been doing." David's expression turned serious. "Be careful, May. Tanya has friends in high places. Her dad's on the school board." Lily hadn't known that detail. It complicated things but didn't change her plan. "Some things are worth the risk," she said. Across town, May was dealing with her own complications. She'd arrived at Sinclair to find Zoe waiting for her with a serious expression. "We need to talk," Zoe said, pulling her into the girls' bathroom. Hannah's telling everyone you're going to that college party on Friday. Me's stomach dropped. What? I never said that. Well, he's already lined up the fake IDs. And after you promised Ms. Nguyen you were done with all that after what happened last time. Last time? May echoed weakly. Zoe stared at her. The drinking incident? When you nearly got expelled? Lily, what's wrong with you lately? It's like you've become a completely different person. If only Zoe knew how right she was. I'm not going to any party, May said firmly. Good. Zoe looked relieved. Because Ms. Nguyen wants to see you before class. Something about your chemistry paper being suspiciously perfect. Her words, not mine. Great. Now Lily's teacher thought she was cheating. Her sister was apparently involved with fake IDs and college parties, and their mom was coming for a parent-teacher conference later. This day was getting worse by the minute. During lunch, Lily sat with her growing group of friends at Westlake. The stolen phone burned in her pocket as she tried to act normal. She'd glanced through it briefly between classes, finding exactly what she'd suspected. Hundreds of cruel messages and photos targeting not just May, but dozens of students. You okay? David asked, noticing her distraction. You've barely touched your food. Before Lily could answer, a shadow fell across their table. Tanya stood there, flanked by two friends, her face twisted with rage. Someone broke into my locker this morning, she announced, eyes scanning the group. Anyone want to confess? Lily kept her expression neutral. Why would any of us go near your locker? I don't know, Mouse Girl. But things have been weird ever since you suddenly grew a backbone. Tanya leaned closer. If anything's missing, I'll know who took it. After Tanya stormed off, David whispered, she knows. She suspects, Lily corrected. She doesn't know anything for sure. But as the day progressed, Lily noticed Tanya watching her constantly, whispering to teachers, pointing in her direction. By last period, Lily felt the walls closing in. She needed to get the phone to the principal before Tanya made her move. At Sinclair, May sat stiffly in Ms. Nguyen's office, trying to explain a chemistry paper she'd never written. This work exceeds even your usual standards, Lily, the teacher said, tapping the paper. It's graduate-level analysis. Did you have help? I did a lot of research, May stammered. Ms. Nguyen didn't look convinced. I'm going to discuss this with your mother at our meeting today. Great. One more fire to put out before dinner. As final bell rang at both schools, the twins texted frantically, agreeing to meet earlier than planned. They had a lot to fix before their parents arrived for the meetings. Lily was heading for the exit when the principal's voice came over the loudspeaker. May Lai, please report to the office immediately. Her blood turned cold. Had Tanya reported the break-in already? In the hallway, David grabbed her arm. Don't go. It's a trap. I have to, Lily said. But can you do me a favor? She pressed Tanya's phone into his hand. Get this to the principal if I don't come back in 10 minutes. The password is 1234. David looked at the phone, then at her with new understanding. You really did take it. It's evidence, Lily explained, of everything she's done, not just to me, but to everyone. After a moment, David nodded. 10 minutes, then I'm coming after you. Lily headed to the office, heart in her throat. She had no idea what was waiting for her, but she knew one thing for certain. This switch had gotten far more complicated than either twin had ever imagined. Lily walked into the principal's office with her heart hammering against her ribs. To her surprise, she found not just Principal Wong waiting, but also Tanya and her father, Mr. Chen, who she recognized as a stern-faced man from school board photos in the hallway. Miss Lai, thank you for joining us, Principal Wong said, gesturing to an empty chair. We have a serious matter to discuss. Tanya shot her a triumphant look as Lily sat down. Mr. Chen cleared his throat importantly. My daughter tells me you've been acting strangely this week, causing trouble, breaking into lockers, stealing personal property. That's not true, Lily said, trying to keep her voice steady. I haven't stolen anything. Then you won't mind emptying your pockets, Tanya challenged. Lily's mind raced. The phone was with David now, but would they believe her? I don't have anything of yours. This behavior is concerning, Principal Wong said. It doesn't sound like you, May. You've always been so quiet, never any trouble. People change, Lily replied, sitting up straighter. Sometimes they get tired of being pushed around. Mr. Chen's eyes narrowed. Are you accusing my daughter of something? Yes, Lily said, surprising herself with her boldness. Bullying. Not just me, but lots of students. And I have proof. Just then, a knock at the door interrupted them. The school secretary poked her head in. Sorry to interrupt, but Mr. Lai is here for his parent-teacher conference. Lily felt the blood drain from her face. Their dad was here already. She wasn't supposed to meet May for another hour. Before anyone could respond, another knock came, and David appeared in the doorway, slightly out of breath. Excuse me, Principal Wong, but I have something important. He held up the phone. Evidence of cyberbullying happening at our school. It involves many students, including May. The room erupted in chaos. Tanya lunged for the phone. Her father demanded to know what was going on, and Principal Wong called for order. In the midst of it all, Lily caught sight of her father in the hallway, watching the scene with total confusion. Across town at Sinclair Academy, May was having her own crisis. She sat in Ms. Nguyen's classroom, facing not just the chemistry teacher, but also the school counselor, Mrs. Patel, and her mother who had arrived early for the conference. We're concerned about Lily's recent behavior, Mrs. Patel was saying. Sudden personality changes can indicate stress or other issues. And this chemistry paper, Ms. Nguyen added, shows a completely different writing style than her previous work. Either someone else wrote it, or what? May's mother asked, looking worried. Or she's been hiding her abilities, Ms. Nguyen finished. Lily has been struggling in my class all year, and suddenly she submits graduate-level work. May stared at her hands. She couldn't explain that the real Lily had been getting by on charm and connections rather than academic effort. She couldn't explain that the paper probably was suspiciously good because May herself excelled at chemistry. Mom, I can explain, she began, but stopped when her phone buzzed with a text from Lily. Emergency. Dad's here at Westlake. Come now. Me's heart sank. Their careful plan was falling apart. I need to go, she blurted out, standing up abruptly. Lily, we're in the middle of a meeting, her mother said sternly. It's May. She needs me. Without waiting for a response, May bolted from the room, leaving the adults staring after her in shock. Back at Westlake, the situation had escalated. Principal Wong was reviewing the contents of Tanya's phone, his expression growing more grave with each swipe. Mr. Chen had gone from indignant to uncomfortably silent. Tanya herself sat with arms crossed, tears of fury streaming down her face. These messages, Principal Wong said finally, are extremely disturbing. Threats, humiliation, sharing embarrassing photos without consent, these are serious offenses, Miss Chen. Lily's father stood in the doorway, utterly bewildered. Can someone please explain what's going on? Why is my daughter involved in this? Your daughter, Principal Wong said, appears to have been the target of extensive bullying. But she's also shown remarkable courage in bringing it to light. Lily caught David's eye, and he gave her a subtle thumbs up. Despite the chaos, she felt a warm glow of victory. Tanya was finally being held accountable. Then her father said something that made her blood freeze. I think there's been a misunderstanding. This isn't May. Every head in the room turned to stare at him. What do you mean, this isn't May? Principal Wong asked. Before her father could answer, footsteps pounded in the hallway, and May burst into the room, still wearing Lily's Sinclair uniform, followed closely by their confused mother. The twins locked eyes across the crowded office, both realizing the same thing. Their switch was about to be exposed to everyone. Will someone please explain what's going on? Principal Wong demanded. Mai stepped forward, taking a deep breath. I'm Mei Lai. The real May. She pointed at Lily. That's my twin sister, Lily. We switched places 3 days ago because I was being bullied and she wanted to help me. A stunned silence fell over the room. Tanya's jaw dropped as she looked back and forth between the identical girls. You've been pretending to be each other? Their mother asked, her voice a mixture of shock and disbelief. It was my idea, Lily admitted. I was tired of hearing about how May was being treated. I wanted to do something about it. And I wanted to know what it felt like to be confident, to be like Lily, May added quietly. Their father ran a hand over his face. Why didn't you just tell us what was happening?" The twins exchanged a look that spoke volumes. Years of their parents working long hours, of being told to handle their own problems, of feeling like their struggles weren't important enough to mention. "We didn't think you'd have time to help," May said finally. The simple honesty of her answer seemed to hit their parents harder than any accusation could have. Their mother's eyes filled with tears, and their father's shoulders sagged with stubborn understanding. "Well," Principal Wong said, breaking the heavy silence, "it seems we have several issues to address here. The bullying, certainly, but also this deception." "Are we in trouble?" Lily asked, suddenly remembering all the school rules they'd broken. Principal Wong looked from the twins to Tanya, to the evidence still displayed on the phone, and sighed deeply. "Let's just say," he replied, "this is going to be a very long parent-teacher conference." 2 weeks had passed since the twins' secret was exposed. The ride home that night had been silent, their parents too shocked to even begin discussing the consequences. But that silence hadn't lasted long. There had been long family meetings, tears, hugs, and finally, real communication. Their parents had adjusted their schedules, making time for family dinners and actually listening when the twins spoke. It turned out that sometimes the most dramatic actions led to the most necessary changes. At Westlake, things were different now. May walked through the hallway with her head a little higher, though still not with Lily's confident strut. Tanya and her friends were serving 2 weeks of in-school suspension and were required to attend anti-bullying workshops. Mr. Chen had resigned from the school board, embarrassed by the evidence of his daughter's behavior. The biggest change, though, was at May's usual lunch table. It wasn't just her table anymore. David sat across from her, and Jen and several other students who had been hiding from Tanya's crew had joined them too. "Pass the ketchup?" David asked, smiling at May. She handed it over, still getting used to having actual conversations during lunch instead of hiding behind a book. The cafeteria buzz around them felt different now, less threatening, more just background noise to their small community. "You're still coming to study group tonight, right?" Jen asked, pushing her glasses up her nose. "I'll be there," Mai promised. It felt good to be included, to be wanted somewhere. "We need your math brain," one of the boys added. "I still don't understand what Mr. Wu was talking about today." May smiled. "I can help with that." Across town at Sinclair, Lily was facing her own set of consequences. Ms. Nguyen had given her extra assignments to make up for the work she'd been neglecting. The parties and fake IDs were a thing of the past, a fact that had ended whatever she'd had going with Han, who hadn't spoken to her since the truth came out. But not everything had changed for the worse. Lily sat on the school steps after final bell, waiting for Zoe to join her for their walk home. "Ready to tackle that chemistry nightmare?" Zoe asked, dropping down beside her. "As ready as I'll ever be," Lily sighed. "I still don't understand why we need to know electron configurations." "That's why we're studying together. Your sister got all the science genes." It was still strange to hear people talk about May so casually, as if she'd always been part of Lily's Sinclair life. But in a way, she had been. Lily had just never acknowledged it before. Later that evening, the twins sat in their shared bedroom, comparing notes on their day. This had become their new ritual, actually talking to each other instead of living separate lives under the same roof. "David asked about you," May said, organizing her homework into neat piles. Lily looked up from her chemistry textbook. "What did he say?" "He wanted to know if you were coming to visit Westlake again." "I think he has a crush on you." "On me? He barely knows me." "He knows you." May shook her head. "No, he liked the you that was pretending to be me. The confident, stand-up-for-yourself version." Lily considered this. "That's weird. Like he fell for your body but my personality?" "When you put it that way, it sounds creepy," Mai laughed. "But I think he just saw something special in how you handled things. You were brave." "You're brave too," Lily said, suddenly serious. "You walked into Sinclair completely terrified and still managed to handle everything, even standing up to Vicky. That took guts." May blushed at the compliment. "Maybe we're both braver than we thought." Then Mom knocked on the open door, bringing in 2 mugs of hot chocolate. "How's the studying going?" "Lily's trying to understand chemistry, so it might be a long night," May teased. "And me's trying to understand people, so that might take even longer." Lily shut back with a grin. Then Mother laughed, setting down the mugs. I wanted to let you know that I talked to both your principals today. We've worked out an arrangement. The twins exchanged nervous glances. What kind of arrangement? Lily asked. Starting next week, you'll both be attending Westlake. What? The twins said in unison. Your father and I think it's better if you're at the same school. Principal Wong has agreed to place you in different classes for most subjects to help you maintain your individual identities. But what about Sinclair? Lily asked, genuinely surprised. My friends are there, and your grades are barely passing, her mother finished gently. Ms. Nguyen thinks you benefit from a fresh start. Plus, May has already proven she can handle advanced academics, and Westlake has agreed to place her in honors classes. After their mother left, the twins sat in stunned silence for a moment. Are you okay with this? May finally asked, coming to my school. Lily flopped back on her bed, staring at the ceiling. Your school, my school. Maybe it's time it was just our school. She turned to look at her sister. Besides, I never got to finish what I started with Tanya. What do you mean? She's being punished. It's over. Lily shook her head. Punishment doesn't change people, but seeing the consequences of their actions might. I want to be there to make sure she actually learned something from this. May studied her twin, seeing a depth she'd never fully appreciated before. You know, for someone who acts without thinking, you can be pretty wise sometimes. And for someone who overthinks everything, you can be pretty bold when it counts. The next Monday, the Lay twins walked through Westlake's front doors together for the first time. Students turned to stare. Everyone had heard the story by now. The identical girls who had swapped lives and turned the school upside down. But unlike before, May didn't hunch her shoulders or hide her face. She walked beside her sister, different but equal. A freshman girl was struggling with her locker nearby, a couple of older students laughing as they watched. Without a word, the twins exchanged a look and moved in different directions, Lily toward the laughing students, May toward the struggling girl. They didn't need to switch places anymore to be strong. They had found their own voices in their own ways. And those voices, it turned out, were louder and more powerful than either of them had ever imagined.